guess, man, I'm as ready as I'm gonna be. Here we go.
Okay.
Here we go. Here we go.
How was the rest of the week last week?
The rest of the week last week after leaving you? Interesting week. All in all, just a really, really interesting week. Just replaying it. Work ramped up. I got work was going well. All that good stuff. Spiritual warfare kicked up a couple notches last week, and I think it was just more like walking in my purpose, walking in my power, walking in my peace of mind, knowing and feeling like I was on the right track. You know?
That you were on the right track?
Yeah, yeah, that was really nice. And I went to my grandmother's house. My grandmother's still with us, but she has Alzheimer's. And she's living with my aunt. And that was interesting because my aunt flipped out on me over an issue that she had with me from 4 years ago that she harbored all this time. And I was like, why are you living in the past like this? Why are you holding on to this when I did nothing wrong to you?
Yeah.
Not then and not now. I didn't do anything wrong to you, but you've created this anger, this energy that's perpetuated over the course of time. And all the times that you've seen me over the past 4 years, you never brought it up until right now. That's interesting. So that was fun. That was fun to witness. It was fun to be a part of because she was really emotional, and it was nice that if there was a trigger level where I got triggered and a 10 was the worst case scenario where I fought back and I was yelling and all that stuff, it was probably a 2. And I kind of beat myself up for that because she didn't deserve a 2 back in response. But, I got over it pretty quickly, and, I did the work to diagnose what got me out of rhythm there. At least I tried to do the work that diagnosed what got me out of rhythm and what got me to a 2 on the annoyance scale. But yeah, overall, man, just really good week, a really interesting week, and it just flew by, man. Things are just moving quickly, I think. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, it was pretty good, man. You asked me earlier, you was like, hey, how was the rest of your week last week, essentially, based off of the conversation that we had, or ever since we've been doing this. And bro, I had a really good week last week after we had that conversation.
Yeah.
Remember I asked you about energy and stuff like that, how do you stay vibrating high when somebody comes to you with a very low vibrational issue, you know? And essentially, bro, I went to work the next day and they tried it, I had to get my jujitsu on, the transfer of energy. But literally, bro, your words definitely help. I meant to tell you that too. Yeah,
man, thank you. Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. And how did it feel passing that test?
It felt good, man. It felt good. And honestly, I think and you probably talked about this a few times, man. Mostly, bro, it was just controlling my emotions, right? So after I was able to control my emotions, before when the issues were a problem, it was high. It was a problem. I felt upset about it, just all these different feelings or whatever. But after, we got to the point where you're just just kind of lead from your heart, listen to what's going on, but just kind of vibrate at the same level that you were. It's I realized that, let me just stay emotionally calm throughout different situations and respond as I should. And literally, bro, after that point, there was no more highs, there was no more lows. It was just right here on this standard level, and that was good. That's where I wanted to be, It wasn't I felt extremely happy that I passed the test. It was just that things are just the same. And I was like, you know what? I like this. Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. So that was just my experience. So,
That's really cool. And that's really good to know that thought process is working for you in your journey, and that putting it into action has allowed you to move through former adversities into a feeling of execution of peace, you know? And again, you know, we've talked about in the past, but like creating that state where it's consistent, you know? Because even like, you know, like kind of like what I was just saying, you know, when it came to my own family member, she got a 2-point rise out of me, you know? And it's nothing that I showed to her. It was like mainly internal, where I was like, that wasn't worth it. You know, like maybe I shouldn't have reacted that way. And, you know, rather than beat myself up, again, like I gave myself like points. Like I was like, you know what? You did that, you know? And like not fight it, you know? And like, you know, I handled it well. I operated through it. I made sure that she knew that I was going to handle it appropriately and that I didn't have any like pent up animosity or any negative issues towards her for any type of reason. That was really nice.
Said you went back at your aunt, right? She had a problem. You were at a level 2 out of 10.
Yeah.
What level was she at?
Like a solid 8.
For real?
Solid 8, 7. Like
She approached
me with the heat.
Oh man.
And I was like, where is this coming from? Like, but I knew as soon as it was about to happen, like it was about to happen. So I was prepared for it, you know? And, you know, just seeing her, I was like really positive and like, you know, just like chill, like, you know, hey, how you doing? Whatever, blah, blah. And the energy just didn't seem right. And I was like, we're about to start some shit, aren't we? And as soon as she had the opportunity to get me alone, she like did one of these to me and like took me into another room. And that's how they get you. They try to like take you into a separate space so then they can like say whatever happened behind closed doors, but no one's there to witness it. And boom, she just came at me so hard. And I was like, and she said her little piece and she's like, and that's it. And me being me, I was like, well, I have 3 statements to talk about when it comes off of what you just said.
You said
know?
that?
Yeah, I was like, I got 3 statements, so bear with me. You know, I'm like, this is the type of person I am, so I have questions and something to say to what you're bringing to me here. And it turned into 4. And by the end of me making my statements, she got what she wanted out of me in the sense of like whatever like standards she set, I agreed to. But on the flip side, I had 4 statements to it that she could not speak to at all because she knew I was telling the truth and she knew what I was saying had any malicious malintent, no negative energy towards it. It was just the truth. And she didn't like it. And she got to a point where she was like, you know what? Get the fuck out of my house. And I was like, word? I'm like, but I was like, I didn't say anything disrespectful. I didn't lie to you. I didn't, you know. She's like, I never said you did. Your voice just annoys me and I don't want you here. And I was like, all right, you know, and got the kids, got the wife, and we dipped, man, you know. But it was like, it was one of those things where it was like, it was a legitimate attack, you know? And she had it could have went so many other different ways and like could have been just a positive interaction and moved through it, but she wanted to bring the heat and I just brought the fire extinguisher, you know? And I was like, okay, like I'm not gonna fight you. It's not gonna happen, you know? You're not gonna bring me to that level. It's just, for what? And you still didn't answer my 4, out of my 4 statements, maybe 2 of those were questions. You didn't answer any of my questions. You just like heard me out and you're like, damn, he is making sense, now get the fuck out, you know? So that's what ends up happening. You like, when you get into these little situations and you stand firm in your truth and don't let it take you out of your divinity and your peace, they rebel by trying to exert some form of control over the situation. So if you're at their house, if you're at their function or something like that, it's like, well, get out, you know, why? Because I'm showing a mirror to you and you don't like that, you know? At the same time, I'm not getting upset, I'm not getting disrespectful, it's all respect and it's all love, you know? So it was interesting.
You talked to her ever since?
No, I gave her some advice. I gave her a big hug and like 5 kisses, and I was like, I love you. Like, you know, whatever you're upset about, I hope you figure it out, you know? But again, I'm not gonna play into it and be upset with you. Not over something that you thought I meant 4 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, it just didn't make sense to me, you know? So, yeah, interesting. And that's kind of how it's been this past week. Like I said, everything kind of like ramped up energetically. It's either those divides are happening more and more often now. Of like, it's either I'm your cup of tea and that's great, or not, you know. And it's pretty evident right off the rip, you know, people that don't vibe right, or vibe with me in particular, or with people who are on this frequency, you know, comes out pretty immediately. And I'm sure you've seen it too. Like, you know, you were able to diagnose immediately when you went back to work, you know, something that could have triggered you, and you moved through it, you know. So it's scalable. It's going to happen that way, I think, pretty consistently and pretty more often than it ever has before, you know. I think we're on a huge swing right now where everything can change pretty rapidly for us. And, you know, we just got to stay calm and just stay full of love and light in order to make that happen.
It's real, man.
Yeah,
it's real.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got any big plans for this week coming up?
No. Fight my procrastination, meditate on being a better version of myself, and staying at peace, you know, finding solutions to whatever issues are out there, and just walking in faith. You know, it's tougher sometimes than it sounds, but you know, being able to operate in that faith and knowing that everything's not only going to be all right, but it's going to work out in your favor. It's very important. So I think this week is going to be full of that, in my opinion, you know, overall.
Gotcha. What do you, what's the first steps in meditation for you? Like, I don't know if I was actually taught how to meditate.
Okay.
Yeah.
So meditation. My first steps are different. It's very different for me now than it was like starting out. Okay. Starting out, I had to like find my center, like just find a place where I can just be, you know. And I got into meditation, like I told you, through my psychedelic experiences, which gave me a third eye activation. And one day, I remember I was in the shower and I was meditating, and I activated my third eye while in the shower on no drugs, no inhibitors, nothing, no plant medicine. And I was like, that's it, I found it. So like the key to meditating more than anything, they say to like clear your mind and think about nothing, which is like really hard for most people to like conceptualize. So the big thing that helped me was just being and understanding that I'm a part of everything that I hear and feel. So just being aware of the things that I hear and feel. Does that make sense? So if I'm outside and I'm meditating and my eyes are closed, my visual sense is gone, and I'm just breathing and just relaxing in that moment, I hear the rustling of the trees through the wind, right? So like I'm hearing the sound that the wind makes through the trees, and I'm hearing the birds chirping, or the tires rolling, you know, on a car up the street, or the crackle of, you know, some little rodent, you know, walking through the leaves in fall, you know? And just being aware that all of that is going on around you without any type of judgment or feelings about it, you know? And inevitably what ends up happening is you're just a part of all of it. You're part of like the soundtrack of life, if you will. And that's where you're in the meditative state. You know, you get to a state where you're just, there's no difference from your breathing to the soundtrack of everything that you're hearing around you. And then it opens you up to receive different information and different like epiphanic thought processes, which really helps. Now, over the course of time, and you know, if your third eye is decalcified, right? Meaning that you're not using like, you're not taking in a whole bunch of fluorides, and you know, you're eating properly, and you know, you're taking time to unlock your third eye and to massage it, decalcify it. I used to imagine during my meditations that there was like, I was breaking something off, like I was massaging my third eye, and I was breaking like the calcification off of it, and my head would hurt. And then I got to a point where there was nothing else to like break off, and then I started seeing visuals without being on any type of drugs. And then that's when I knew that my pineal gland was active, and it was something that I can tap into. And yeah, like over the course of time, meditation and getting into that state that I just told you about became pretty immediate. Like I can get into that state now just by closing my eyes for like 2 seconds, and I can just like find it and feel it and be in it, you know, which is nice. It takes time to get there, but it's not necessarily as challenging as people make it out to be, I think. You know, what's the challenging thing for you when it comes to meditating?
I guess just probably just like focusing on being in the moment, you know? It kind of seems like I'm always trying to rip and run, and, you know, always thinking about what's next, you know? Never just like being completely in the moment and still. I think that's kind of honestly the hardest part for me, you know? Just sitting there and just like focusing in on the moment and the experience rather than like, what are you doing afterwards, or what do you got going on? Like, how's your mom and dad doing? You know what I'm saying? So I guess just the overall focus.
So I would ask, like, is that how your brain operates normally? Are you always thinking about what's next, what's next, what's next?
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah. Either I'm thinking about what's next, or me, it's weird, man. I'm always thinking about how can something be improved, but I'm thinking about that as I'm actually doing that thing. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what you would call that, you know, but yeah, I don't know why.
So it seems like that's part of your presetting, right? Like you probably were a pretty good student in school.
Yeah. When you say preset, like, what's that mean though?
Like how you were raised, right? Like from 0 to 7, you have presettings, right? And your presettings was to be a pretty organized person, right? Like, is that fair to say?
Yeah.
And like you're trying to knock things off the list so you can feel the feeling of achieving something and not having to worry about it, right?
Yeah.
So when you operate from the lens of I want to do something so I don't have to worry about it, okay? You're not operating in the lens of I'm really enjoying what I'm doing, right? You're instead of like you find your enjoyment in something being completed, but then as soon as you complete something, you're looking for the next thing to complete. So how do you really enjoy it?
Like in the moment, yeah.
In the moment, right? And like that's something that I would suggest that you look at for yourself when it comes to that presetting of like, okay, there's a balance here. That doesn't mean I have to like lay around and be lazy and just be like, oh, well, things are just gonna come to me, you know? But maybe, you know, for you, it can be like the joy of actually enjoying something and being in it, right? Like I couldn't imagine you as a golfer being on a golf course and like worrying about what time I'm gonna leave. Right? Like I couldn't imagine that.
Yeah.
You know? I wanna enjoy this swing. I wanna enjoy this air. I wanna talk to my buddy about whatever we're talking about, and I just wanna be in it. I don't wanna look down at my phone every 20 minutes and being like, oh man, I only got, you know, I only got another hour until I gotta leave the course and get to whatever, you know? I really wanna enjoy this time and this hour, you know? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. And now I'm wondering, why can't I be in the moment more? Because you're right. Like, even, it's funny you said that. Even though I'm golfing, like, literally, like, when it's about time to go, it's like I'm worrying about, like, yeah, I can't wait to eat out of here. Like, after this, like, what am I going to eat? You know, I started thinking about stuff like that. I started thinking about what I'm going to do for the rest of the day. But I don't know, man. Is that a good sign that says that my third eye is not activated? Like,
No, I mean most people's aren't. You know,
Yeah.
most people are still using, like, you know, there's fluoride and shit in our water.
Yeah.
In, like, our drinking water, our tap water, not our drinking water, our tap water, and like what we shower in. So
Yeah.
we're getting fluoride in us all the time.
so, bro, explain it to me. I'm sorry to cut you off there.
No, you're good.
Explain it to me like I'm 5 years old. What is the third eye, and like what does fluoride have to do with the third eye?
Awesome. Yeah, great. So your third eye is the name for a pine cone shaped gland in the middle of your brain, right? So you have your two eyes here, and some people will call it your first eye. And then right here, in the center of your brain, right, in that point, if I were to draw a direct line to both, there's a little pine cone shaped gland in there. That is called the pineal gland, okay? Often depicted as a pine cone in ancient hieroglyphs. This is the thing that gets activated with the DMT that we talked about a couple weeks back, that creates a window into the spiritual realm, okay? So this is the eye that sees the things that these eyes can't, okay? This is what you dream through. This is what you, when, you know, you're in a meditative state, you start seeing visuals and people and deities and colors and shapes and auras. It's all coming from here. And it's crystal based. It's got crystalline structure in it. So the way that light, like literally like the way it refracts light and everything else, it's a very special gland. And again, this is where that Christos fluid, right, that comes into your spinal cord, that Christ energy, that Christos, when it builds up appropriately and puts pressure on your third eye, it creates like a DMT experience. So that's what your third eye is. It's a pineal gland, and again, it's the window into the ethereal realm. Now, studies have shown that the majority of our third eyes, like on humankind, are calcified, like severely calcified. Like there's a crust around it or whatever, not allowing it to activate appropriately, right? And the biggest thing that calcifies it is fluoride, which is stuff that you get at the dentist. It's in your toothpaste and everything else. You know, a couple of weeks ago we talked about spiritual warfare and like rubber on your shoes. And you're like, you think that's on purpose? And I was like, yeah, it's on purpose. Just like fluoride in your toothpaste is on purpose, right? Because, you know, this is all ancient sacred knowledge that's been known for generations, but only the deletes, as they like to call them, instead of elites, the deletes like to harness that energy for themselves and use it in their secrets and their rituals and everything else.
Okay.
So, you know, the pineal, that's something that, you know, the Masons know about it, the Skull and Bones, like, you know, all these different organizations know and understand how to activate that and what goes into that. But that's what your third eye is.
Gotcha. So, like, I mean, you said it's a window into the spirit realm. I'm guessing, like, what does that mean? Is that something that we can use to further our relationships and ourselves on Earth? Like, I don't know. What are the benefits that you can
Absolutely.
have from? Yeah.
It gives you clarity, clairvoyance. You ever hear the term clairvoyance? So clairvoyance means that you can see things for what they truly are, not from the facade of what's built up in front of us, where we can get to a point where we can literally just, again, live a joyous and abundant life on a consistent basis the way God intended it for us to be, right? We only see, and I think I saw this today, we only see like 0.338% of light spectrum and light waves that are actually around us.
Really?
Right? Yeah. So the other 99.97 or whatever is like, you know, gamma rays, X-rays, all this different light spectrum that's going on that these two eyes can't comprehend or see, therefore our brain can't even comprehend or see it. And as you get into higher dimensions of energy and thought processes and everything else, we'll start to activate our third eye more and more, and then we'll be able to see things that we don't naturally see there. So like, all right, for instance, you have like dogs, right? Like animals can see other light rays and other light radiation and other light filters, if you will. Like I saw this one thing, like bees, the way that they choose the flower to pollinate on is the energy and the vibration of that flower, which attracts them to it. So they know that, hey, this flower has, the pollen or whatever the case is, and they're drawn to it, That's why for me, I believe this. Sometimes when I'm in a meditative state, like bees would just fly around me and just, because whatever I'm radiating is attracting them to come to me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It's crazy. A bee hit me in the face the other day.
Did it?
Like randomly, yeah.
Yeah, were you hella chill? Like, were you in like a good place? Were you chilling?
At that moment, yes,
Yeah.
but like when I noticed it was a bee, I like was panicking a little bit.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing, like that fight or flight response out of it. But yeah. So seeing into the spirit realm, you'll see like children that can see ghosts and spirits, right? That are like stuck in the fourth dimension. That's a window into that realm. You have like people that can see people's auras, right? That's a window into that realm. You have, what else? Lucid dreaming, when you dream, that's the spirit realm. Like you're in that realm, you're in that space where you can change things and operate in things in certain ways,
Yeah.
So these are all aspects in which that are happening around us all the time, literally. We just can't perceive it with our physical eyes. You got to tap into something a little bit deeper.
Okay, gotcha. And how do you tap into it? How do you open it up? How do you get the clear it all up?
It's again the trials, right? The trials, the tests. You have to pass a test in order to get the abilities, right?
Yeah.
So again, it's funny, every time that we ask this, it's the same answer, right? It's finding your peace. It's being able to, like for me, and I can only speak from my experience.
Yeah.
It was being aware of these different aspects. I did a whole bunch of research on it. And I started practicing. I started practicing meditation. I started practicing mindfulness and just being at peace. I started exercising emotional intelligence. I started, studying the different chakra systems and how to unlock those, and everything from the root chakra, sacral chakra, solar plexus, your heart, your throat chakra, third eye, your crown. And for me, it was my third eye was first. That kind of unlocked, and that's when it came with like the DMT and all that stuff. So then every time I meditated, I was focusing on my third eye, because I just wanted to see stuff, So with an intention of focusing on unlocking it and shedding that, it kind of just happened over the course of time. And then my crown chakra opened up, and I started my heads would start twitching during meditations, uncontrollably, like the scalp, and it would just go back and forth. And this tingling would come through the top of my head as if I was receiving information. And that started to unlock a whole nother part of my body, right? And I remember the first time I really was I remember the first time I received the download, okay? And what I mean by that is I was outside at my friend's house, his old house, and I was staring at the stars. And I'm known to stare at the sky for X amount of time, right? And in looking in the stars, there was one star in particular that really drew me in. And it was vibrating in a way. And before I knew it, I'm looking at the star, and I'm in a meditative, just breathing state, eyes open, looking directly at the star. And then all of a sudden, every other star and every other thing around me went black. And it was just that star, right? And then from that blackness and from just looking at that star, I then felt like almost like a pulsing energy straight from that star to my third eye. And I didn't move. I didn't want to move. I couldn't move. My whole body was like locked in place. And my ears started ringing very loud. And I would get just a wave of pressure and energy flowing through me. And that was like my first feeling of receiving some sort of a download from space. It felt like, from this star that was sending messages and energy directly to me. And over the course of time, I've received more and more of those types of downloads. Whether it's like a star or something I'm like staring at and the energy is being projected to me, but it's mainly a star. And I've seen like holograms come from space at me. I've asked questions, what do you want me to learn? What do you want me to see? And like the star would shoot out a hologram, like literally a literal hologram directly to me to tell me the message that I needed to understand, And those moments have definitely helped me kind of like come to peace with this whole system and how it operates, and and again, that there's so much more out there than what we ever realized. And over the course of time, I just unlocked more and more of my chakras and my abilities. My throat chakra was pretty much next, speaking those truths. My heart chakra, feeling and operating through my heart and not letting my brain control the vessel, but really feeling the energies around me and all that good stuff, and understanding how to tap into each one is what unlocks them. But you have to do it on a pretty consistent basis where it becomes like part of your functionality, and then it becomes like a normal thing, normal occurrence. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So again, things that religion never taught me, but I was just discovering it, and I just kept on discovering.
Gotta stop it. Cool. Yeah, bro. Damn, that's yeah, that's nuts, man. Yeah, you actually had me thinking, and I don't even know, like, has my third eye been open, Because there are certain times where I see visuals that, I'm just like, wow, where did this come from? But this makes perfect sense, I don't know. I guess there's no, like, there's no Google test where you could just like, oh, it's my chakra open. Like,
there's not that I know of, right?
I guess you just got to know.
It's one of those things, if you know, you know.
Yeah.
And you'll come across people that know as well. Which brings a very interesting point. You asked about my week. After last week's episode, people started reaching out to me. And in particular, this one gentleman reached out to me. And he was like, man, I just want to have lunch with you and sit down with you and talk to you, because the things that you're talking about on this podcast is like, it's really hitting me, I'm like, all right, cool. So we went out to eat, and he starts opening up about his experiences. And bro, parallel. He's going through similar things just from his perspective that I went through. Similar battles, similar experiences of seeing things that weren't there but really were there, and DMT experiences where his third eye was activated, and and it was really reassuring, because I don't get to meet too many people that have gone through this journey yet outside of me, and I felt like, all right, like we really are all activating at this point in time, those that understand, and gravitating towards one another, so we can figure out how to spread this message of awareness, as best as possible. Now back to like whether or not your third eye was open or not. Again, if you question it, then it's probably not, right? If if you haven't had that moment of, did I just see what I think I just saw? Or like, did that just happen the way I think it just happened? Did all the stars in the sky just move and show me, you know, these, like, did I just play connect the dots with the stars? You know? I remember the first time I saw that, and I was floored. I had no idea how to react to it. It was like the stars turned into a spaceship, and they shot across the sky, and then it went into something else, and it was like a message that that the stars were telling me. You know, my normal two eyes couldn't have seen that or comprehended that. It must have been something else at play. You know, and you know, I think that's like one of the things that, as we ascend and as our vibration raises, that we have to normalize the functionality of our vessel changing. We have to normalize that, you know, there probably was people out there who legitimately saw things and operated in things, and they were diagnosed with schizophrenia and put into psych wards and given lobotomies and all this other stuff throughout history, when really they were just having like a Kundalini awakening, like a true spiritual experience, you know, which is crazy. But like, I think now it's a time to like really discuss what happens to your body as you become more whole of yourself, if that makes sense. And again, that's why I do believe that we're all like divine beings walking this planet. You know, we're not just in a vessel just walking around just to live a life. Like, we have powers, we have abilities, we have capabilities far beyond anything that we were ever taught or told, you know? And that's why I say it with such like vigor, because I'm living it, you know? You're looking at it, you know? So if, you know, and I think the first step is knowing that it exists, right? The second step is do your own research. Go down a rabbit hole or two, you know? Look at both sides of the fence. Look at someone who's like a quote unquote extremist and being like, your pineal gland is the window to the spiritual realm and da 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 da. Like, I would be considered an extremist, right? But then turn back and look at like Andrew Huberman, who's like a neurobiologist and brain functions and everything else, teaches at Stanford, has a very successful podcast, and see what he says about mushrooms or DMT or, you know, pineal gland and all the stuff that has to do with the functions of the brain. He literally studies it and he literally teaches it at Stanford, you know? So see what conventional education says about it, and then have discernment, right? And figure out what makes sense to you, and then start practicing it and seeing what happens, you know? Like I said in the past, Dr. Joe Dispenza does great work on what happens to your brain when it's in different states and what they see, what they experience, what they feel. Do the research. It's there for you. It's all there, you know? And it's one thing to do the research and then like not do something about it. It's another thing to see that this stuff exists and could exist and start practicing it, because that's the difference, you know? You don't get to Yeshua's level. You don't get to, you know, spiritual enlightenment without practicing the things that you're talking about, you know? Because if you're just sitting there talking about it and not living it, that's the same as being like a false prophet. You know, why are you lying to these people? You know, operate in it, live in it, you know? So that would be my advice.
Okay.
For anybody.
That's solid.
You know?
Solid advice, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, don't be afraid, right? Like, for me, I questioned reality. I questioned, like, am I really seeing this? Am I crazy for feeling this way? You know? As a matter of fact, before we started here today, I turned on Gnarls Barkley. You know Gnarls Barkley, the band, CeeLo Green, right? And the song Crazy, he's talking about a spiritual awakening.
Is he?
Yeah. I remember when I lost my mind. There was something so precious about that day. Even my emotions had an echo with so much space. When we're out there, yeah, I was out of touch. And it wasn't because I didn't know enough, it was because I knew too much. Does that make me crazy?
He said all that in the song?
He said all that in that song, man. Does that make me crazy? Probably. And I hope that you were having the time of your life, but just remember, what he's saying, I hope that you were having a time of your life, but think twice, that's my only advice. Yeah, man. He was talking about a spiritual awakening. Yeah, like, let's talk about that. Let's talk about how many musicians and artists and everything have been putting this right in front of our face for a long time. You know? Michael Jackson, man in the mirror. I'm looking at the man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways, right? But if you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make the change. Because we're divine beings. We're divine creatures.
You think he was aware?
Of course he was aware.
Michael Jackson, though?
Yeah, man. You don't play with the devil's bullshit in the entertainment world without realizing that there's a spiritual battle going on here. I mean, you asked me about Jaguar, our first episode. See what she says. And I think I just saw a clip where she was talking about spirituality and all that stuff. But she speaks it all the time. Her role, again, we all have different roles. Her role is to expose, right? So then it gives us people an opportunity to discern and make choices. Okay?
What you got going on tomorrow?
Work.
Yeah.
Work, life,
You got a promotion. You started yet? The new job?
No. So
Okay.
the new role should come into effect in November.
Okay.
November should be a good month for me. So I got a bonus coming up at the end of this pay period, which is nice. I get a quarterly bonus. And so that should be nice. And yeah, and just maintaining, and growing. Yeah, that's pretty much it, man. I just, it's, man. Honestly, now I'm thinking about, like, am I doing enough, right? Am I doing enough in this role, right? Because I personally feel like doing this is me stepping into my purpose.
It feels like that.
Right?
It really feels like that. A lot. Truly.
And when I get that feeling of, like, okay, this is me stepping into my purpose. My purpose is to shake things up. My purpose is to bring this knowledge and then help people operate through it, so that they have the ability to learn from themselves, right?
Yeah.
Like a true healer is gonna teach you how to heal yourself.
Bro, yeah, 100%.
Right?
Yeah.
And if this stuff is still going on, do I need to meditate more? Do I need to post more of, like, clips, and instead of 4-minute clips, do 1:30 clips, so people's time frame and, like, what else do I have to do in order to end the tyranny that this planet's been through? Because that's the goal, nothing less than that.
Yeah.
At the very least, stopping it. Right? So I'm literally saying, like, we have to stop the tyranny on this planet, right? And that's what we're doing, okay? But how do I make it happen? And you know what? That's unfair. As I'm talking through this, right? There's such thing as divine timing. It's not on my time frame, right? But am I doing the most that I can to let God, source, the universe, whatever you call it, pull the trigger to make that happen?
Bro, I feel like you should have therapy sessions. but I guess you wouldn't call it therapy session. There would be like some kind of spiritual conversation with people.
Just like have like a group of people who are on that same like journey?
I would go one at a time.
Yeah?
Yeah, because think about it, like all the journeys, all the things you've been through, you know, you would want somebody, if they were like talking to you about it, you'll want that one-on-one conversation, you know, especially if this person was like, you know, a chief, kind of how you're appearing to be right now. Like you seem like you're a chief healer, you know what I'm saying? It just kind of seems like maybe like a one-on-one with somebody and just talk them through whatever situation they're going through, and you just kind of help them through, given all the knowledge that you have. I mean, you had the conversation, you had lunch with the guy earlier, last week, right?
Yeah.
I remember we shot the second episode with that lady who was sitting right here.
Yeah.
She said, yo, it felt like, you know, you were speaking to me directly. You know?
Sure.
I felt that way too, you know? Maybe, you know, I don't know about you, but sometimes, you know, I can have a conversation with somebody and I could be talking, but it's not really until they start asking me questions, like genuine questions too, that I really like, I don't know, it's like it's more purpose behind you answering their question. It's like your mind just activates a little bit more. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Like I have so much that I can be talking about.
Yeah.
Like even now, but I'm going based off of what do you want to know?
Right.
Like what is like, what's something that really gets you going that, or something that you're questioning that I can help you through?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I've thought about it when it comes to this show, like, do I come in and like, be like, hey, a topic for the week, and like start on that topic, and then you ask me questions about that topic, and then I can dig deeper into it? Or, you know, I would say this, that the more I'm discovering people like me, and this is key, and I'm glad you brought this up, the more I've been like, you know, we should really come together on like a Zoom call or a Teams call, something, where we can all be in the same frequency at the same time, and then use our energy to make the changes, right? Whether it's like a game plan of sorts. Okay, you're the tech person, I'm the inspiration person, you're the, you know, organization person. Like every one of us in the spiritual army have a different role, right? So then how do we come together and put that into a purposeful action or purposeful ritual or routine where we can affect the energy around us? And honestly, it will probably only take like 4 of us. Probably take like 4 or 5 of us to really just get on, and then like take the time to like meditate on the same thing at the same time. Like, fuck, bro. And that's powerful. That's super powerful. You know?
There also needs somebody who's there who can translate the things that y'all are talking about into like a human, a regular, average person's way of like understanding. Because I'm pretty sure if all of y'all are in the same room or on the same Zoom call, after a while y'all just be like looking at each other like,
Like, I know exactly what you mean.
right? Ain't even gotta say no words. Like, you ever seen Pootie Tang? You know the part where he dropped that song. You never seen Pootie Tang? Oh, okay, I was skipping it. But yeah, y'all wouldn't even be saying nothing, bro. Y'all really just be communicating, you know?
We just know.
There would have to be somebody there that can like translate it all. Cause like there are a lot of things that you talk about, bro, that are so interesting. They're captivating, right? They grasp your attention like right then and there. But after a while, you just like, you start figuring out. But then it's so much and it compiles and you just like, all right, it's a lot. Like, it's like a little overload or whatever.
Yeah, you kind of overload on it. You know, there was one person who did like, oh man, it was a crazy night. It was a crazy night. But it was a night where I was just sitting around some serious people at a table. We're having this discussion about all the things that really get me going. And the guy sitting across from me, really super intelligent guy, like a high-ranking military official in the U.S. military, like today. And we're sitting there, and there's another guy at the end of the table, and the guy's asking me questions, and the military guy was like, whoa, hold on, Keith, hold on. He missed all that. he was like, take it back about 5 more notches so he can understand it. He's like, I understand it this much, but I was like, okay, all right, thank you. You know, and it gave me an opportunity to really like reel it in, you know, and like break it down. So like even in this episode, I'm glad that you were like, all right, explain to me what this is.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that makes me feel good because it's like, not only are you like listening, but you want to understand exactly what I mean, what I'm saying, you know? So I would ask that, you know, you keep doing that. Just keep doing that. Keep on asking how or why or, you know, what does this mean or how did you figure that out? You know, what was in your experience that solidified this thought process for you?
Okay, so that helps you.
And that helps me a lot, man.
Good.
It does because, again, you know, so these are 5th, 6th, 7th dimensional thought processes.
Yeah. I know.
You know, so to bring it into the 3rd or 4th dimension, it could be tough sometimes to kind of, you know.
You said a solar flash.
Solar flash, yes. So you ever hear the saying, no one knows the day nor the time when the return will happen? I believe because it's up to us. It's up to humanity to make that choice. And we are fractal pieces of God. So when we come online to say that we're ready, certain things are gonna happen in which that we can operate through that readiness and ascend to that next level as a collective. And I believe that one of these paths that we can end up taking and being on is called the Great Solar Flash. Okay? And this has been written about for a long time. This is nothing new. I didn't make this up. This is a legitimate thing where, again, I talked about the coronal mass ejections. That's essentially when the sun sneezes, right? Those light waves and frequencies come through the earth, break down the solar system, and then that light permeates into our field, okay? And we take that energy on. Well, the biggest coronal mass ejection CME event that's ever happened so far that we know of was called the Carrington event. This was in the 1800s where a solar flash, a solar flare, hit Earth so hard that all the telecommunication went out in the whole world. And this is back in the day, they said people like, hello, all right, like they were like exploding, like there was fires happening and you know, anything like radio waves, radio signals didn't work, all this other stuff. There's a theory that, well, it's not a theory, it's fact, that our sun is the most active that it's been in a very long time right now. Very long time. And the theory is that there's potential of what's called a solar flash, but it's a weaponized way of sending a coronal mass ejection through the waves in order to wake people up at a rapid rate. Rapid rate. And if this is used, I highly advise that you find your peace. You calm down, you relax, okay? They say at first it's gonna feel really intense and you're gonna feel super unbearable. It's gonna feel like, you know, like you're about to just burn up and you might get fearful. Don't get fearful, relax. Like let it permeate you, let it flow through you. It's happening everywhere at the same time. You can't escape it, right? It's literally the sun's energy coming out at the planet at a very high rate. It can knock out all of our cell phone reception, all of our services, all of our electric cars, and the electrical equipment that we have. It can kind of send us back to the Stone Age. Now, some people, some astronomers and all that stuff, they were like, oh, that can't happen. All right, you know, but It can, and it's kind of likely at this point. We're getting bits and pieces of it now. That's why there was Aurora Borealis as far down as New York this past week, and other states that barely see it ever. It's been coming down. There's some in North Carolina. I don't know if you saw that. There's auroras everywhere, and that's miniature solar flashes that we're seeing. X-class solar flares. Okay, now. There's different classifications of flares. There's G-class, there's X-class, so on and so forth. X-class is like your biggest type of flares that we see on a pretty much week-to-week basis at this point. Well, if there's a big enough one, it's a way to raise the frequency very quickly, but it's gonna kill a lot of people. And that's the truth. Because if your frequency can't match that of the energy coming in, your cells, your molecules, everything, it will reject it, you will get sick, and you will probably die after a couple of days. But if you can accept that energy, if you can find your peace, if you can find and match the vibration of what's coming to the planet, you then will raise your vibration, and we will literally walk right into the fifth dimension. And then my role will mean a lot more to you guys, right? Because I'll have the knowledge to help you through it and to help you decipher the things that you're seeing, the things that you're operating in, and all that stuff. So that is a little cliff notes on the potential of a solar flash happening, which again, it's documented, and if you go down the rabbit hole of solar flash, you're going to come across things like the Galactic Federation. You're going to come across things like the Arcturians and the Palladians and, some of this old knowledge of these different groups and beings that all are waiting for it to go down. Everybody's waiting on God's order right now, right? And when that flash happens, if that flash happens, let's say it happens within the next 3 years, okay, best case scenario, it doesn't have to happen. Okay? And we choose to raise our consciousness without any extra help. Okay? And the ETs will sit off of the beaches and sit there for probably months to a year so we can kind of wrap our brain around there's aliens sitting on our beaches all over the world. Okay? Before they actually reach out and make first contact. If it does happen, and the flash does take place, they're gonna have to come pretty quickly to kind of help us through it. Because again, this is, allegedly what we're witnessing here on Earth is very rare to have a planet ascend with beings on it at the same time. And there's a whole team up there to, again, make sure that it flows appropriately. It might rub you the wrong way when I say this stuff. I don't care. I'm supposed to tell you, right? And yeah, so solar flash. Look it up.
Gotcha. I will.
Yeah, yeah, and it's a very real, very possible, and again, we're seeing pieces of it today, right now. And whenever you hear anything about CMEs, coronal mass ejections, solar flares, have you heard anything about solar flares ever? Guess good for you, man. I mean, you're living in a completely different world.
You know what? I have heard. It was one of the movie. It was a movie called The Knowing, and I think there was a flare being sent from the sun, and it was like super powerful or whatever, and it was on the way to Earth, and they had like a few days to live before it actually got here. Okay. And then once it got here, it kind of like destroyed everything. It's like a great fire. Okay. So yeah.
So it happens all the time. That's why. When you see reports of aurora, the northern lights in the lower hemispheres, that just means that the flare broke down so many layers of our solar system, of like the magnetic field, that now we're seeing the light spectrums from the sun.
Oh, wow.
And that's what auroras are.
Okay.
So when you see it, when you're in the North Pole, you see them all the time because there's flares happening all the time. Usually they're small. But when the big one comes, it'll break down multiple layers of that magnetic field, and then you see the light spectrums. And that's all auroras are. So I used to really be big into like space weather and like when they would happen. And I would literally like go to my wife and be like, all right, it's gonna be a rough week. You know, like I'd forewarn her that, hey, yesterday there was an X-class flare sent from this zone of the sun. It's heading towards Earth. It's gonna hit us today into tomorrow. I promise you, you're gonna be moody, right? But it's okay. Like, operate through it. I have the patience to be able to operate through it and to be there for you, essentially. Because, you know, the energies, again, if you're not adjusting to it, you'll start fighting it, and then you'll get irritable, you'll get upset, people start having all sorts of issues and just, yeah, all that. So again, this was a big week of that because there was 2 X-class flares that came last week.
Wow. So it's more coming, so it's more activity.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Oh, yes. Again, this is the most active that we know of that our sun's been in a long time. Long time. We're at the perfect spot right now to change the world. We can really change the world if we so choose to, but it's on us. We have all the help that we need. We have all the backing. They say that all the dark draconian leaders that like witches and shit were like casting spells and like getting backing and support from those beings, they're all gone. Now it's just up to us, right? We have to make a choice. Either we harness that dark energy that for so long was a part of this planet, or we start bringing that light energy into play and operating through that, and then we can change the world that way. So, yeah. And I think this election is going to be the last of its kind. I don't think we'll have another presidential election like this.
What you mean when you say like this?
Where like we vote for Democrat, Republican, you know, the 2 different parties and the sides and the way that the system is and everything else. I think that's done after this election. And I think that if we vote Trump in, and this is according to Bashar, okay? And Bashar said this in an interview not too long ago. And did I tell you this? I don't think so. I'm gonna ask you, and I'm gonna do the same thing Bashar did. If I tell you this, it's up to you, right? And if you wanna know it, and you wanna know what happens, based off of the information that's out there right now in the Akashic Records, okay? I can tell you, and this is based off of Bashar's understanding, not mine, but I tend to believe him. Do you want to know what could potentially happen, depending on which president gets elected?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Bashar says that and he said it very vaguely, he said, the only reason I'm allowed to speak on this right now is because so many things have transpired that these are like one of the 2, like these are like the possibilities right now. And he said it in a vague enough way where you have to delineate what it really means. But he says, if the man wins, i.e. Trump, then we will start another world war, and America, as we know it today, will cease to exist. Okay? If the woman wins, i.e. Kamala Harris, we will have first contact with extraterrestrials within the next 3 years. But the choice is completely up to us. Now, mind you, who's very vague, right? U.S. will cease to exist. World War III. What does World War III look like? What does the U.S. turn into? Trump has been very adamant about having a monarchy, right? He's spoken about it. He's partnered with Elon Musk. Last week, there was a thing where him and Musk showed up, and Musk spoke at his rally. And this is, conspiracy, but it's true. Elon has so many satellites covering the planet right now. And what he's trying to create is like a 5G augmented reality type of situation where there's renewable Wi-Fi throughout the whole planet at all times. And then he rolled out the robots, right? And like 2 weeks ago, like he just rolled out the robots last week. 2 weeks ago, I was talking to you on this platform about Terminator type shit happening, right? And when I saw Trump and Elon pair together, after I saw Bashar say what he said, I was like, oh shit, this is it, right? And then Elon partnered with like trillionaires like last week out in Saudi Arabia or some shit, and he was talking to them about some shit. So they're forming that, like, I believe they represent the dark side, okay? And I don't know that Kamala Harris is much better. I think she's part of like the whole cycle of how things operate, but I don't think that she wants a totalitarian government thought process like Trump has openly admitted that he wants. So it's up to us to vote in who and what we want. And I believe either way, one way or another, this is the last election of its kind. Because if ETs come down here and we're making first contact in the next 3 years, game over. Who lied about what for how long? If these beings are now here and they're saying that the Vatican knew about it and boom, 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 boom. Now religion has to be relooked at. Spiritual concepts has to be relooked at. The very existence of humanity has to be looked at, if that's what happens, literally. And then again, if we have a totalitarian government and we go into World War III, what's to stop, this from becoming Terminator, or The Matrix, which is the same story, by the way. Did you know that? The woman who wrote, black woman, by the way, who wrote The Terminator also wrote The Matrix, and they're a continuation of the same story, just at different time frames in which they happened.
Really?
Yeah. So The Terminator was the beginning of Skynet and all of them coming online and taking over. And then The Matrix was years and years and years later when the machines were running the planet, and then those had to tap into their true power and potential to break out of it. Bars. So which route do we want to go? They say, and this is according to Bashar again.
Who is that?
So Bashar is there's a thing called channeling, okay? Where you can open up your receiver to channel different energies and speak through it, okay? This is some people's gifts. Remember we talked about gifts and different things that people have. There's this guy named Daryl, who's like an older white male. I believe he's American. And in his spiritual journey, he came in contact with this extraterrestrial named Bashar, who pretty much told him 40 years ago, for 40 years they've been doing this, I would like to partner with you on Bashar's a first contact specialist. It's what he does on every planet that there's first contact. His people are specialized in teaching the people of the planet how to operate through this. So he goes into this channel state where he allows his vessel to be transmitted, or the messages he allows his vessel to be open to Bashar speaking through him, right? So Bashar's an ET from, I want to say Sirius B is where he's from. And he transmits his message through this guy named Daryl. And nothing that he said up until this point is a lie at all that I've heard or seen. These things have come to pass, and he does a great job of explaining, human emotions and how to operate through them and everything else, because you have to realize that a lot of these extraterrestrials have a lot more understanding of the spiritual realm and how energy works and how it operates. That's how they can get from their planet to here in the first place, right? That's how they can create renewable energy. That's how the Anunnaki knew how to create renewable energy and build pyramids and all that other stuff, because they're a lot more advanced in understanding that knowledge, right? And I mean, Bashar will tell you, I believe, like, you know, he talks about a lot of things, you know, and as it is, you know, he just sits, and this guy, Daryl, goes to these events where he's sitting on a stage in front of like hundreds of people, and he channels Bashar, and people just start asking him questions. Bashar just hears them out and then answers it. First contact specialist. And the thing about Trump and Kamala that I just said is super recent. Because for years, he would always be asked, when are you guys going to come? What's going to happen? Da, da, da. And he'll just be like, I can't tell you that. It's up to you guys, you know? But now so many choices have been made that, like, these are pretty much the last, the last two choices. So he has permission to speak on it in order for us to do something about it 40 years later, you know? So to me, I feel like that would be a really long time to hold up a lie of some sort, you know? How does that make you feel when I say that?
What?
Talking about ETs, talking through people and humans and channeling, and
I can see it being impossible, man. You know, I just haven't heard too much about this person, you know, Daniel or Bashar. But it's definitely something that I can't wait to get into the car and look up on my phone. Like,
yeah?
You
Cool.
know, seriously, yeah.
Cool.
But I mean, it seems believable. It seems like that's how it would happen. I don't know, bro. There's just a lot of possibilities out here, you know?
We're in it.
Yeah, I know. Right. And I'm a believer of a lot of things, man, just because, like, you know, I always tell myself this, like, I'm not 100% confident on anything, but I'm 100% confident that I don't know everything. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So, like, that's what keeps me open to learning different stuff. But right now, I'm just kind of speechless. Like, I've never heard of this before.
Yeah.
So, like,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's really interesting work, you know, that this guy, Daryl and Bashar do together. And, like, sometimes I feel like I channel energy from some other source and being. Oftentimes I feel like it's just my oversoul, which is my higher self. And it's just me at a higher level speaking through. And oftentimes it happens in the shower. I have some like crazy, because there's something about the hydrogen molecules in water that allows those transfers to happen so smoothly. And I'll be saying some real shit, dog. You know, or I'll start singing, and the tones will like change, like the certain frequency patterns and stuff. And like, I know it's doing something. You know, bro. One day I was in the shower in a meditative state, and I was just belting out "Three Little Birds" by Bob Marley. 2 days later, bro, a whole nest is built outside of my doorstep.
Wow.
And what came of that nest? 3 little fucking birds. Each by my doorstep, singing sweet songs. I watch them grow up, barn swallows. And they come out here and they fly around the circle and they fly around my head and stuff. And it's fucking amazing, bro. I felt like freaking, you know, I felt like Snow White, you know? It's real. This stuff is real, man. It's more real than you and I ever thought life was.
Yeah.
You know? So thank you for coming out here again, and thank you for being a part of this. And I really want to know, I would like to know from your perspective, when you start digging into some of this stuff, what are you finding? Right? Because I went through my journey. And like, I'm going through my journey, but I remember my questioning portion. I'm like, how legit is that? How real is this? And then I had to come up with my own theories. You know, today we talked about everything from dark energy harnessing, you know, the fear of children, to extraterrestrials speaking through us, So it's a lot to take in, man. So I'd like to know, what you find.
Yeah, I got you. I'll let you know for sure.
That'll help them too.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, brother.
All right, bro.
Thank you.